This is a program that tries to promote so-called traditional crops. We like to call neglected and underutilized species, the species that are very popular at the local level, but they are marginalized by research and development in spite of the many livelihood benefits. Crops that are very nutritious, they are very resilient, very important for climate change, crops that can generate also income for the poor. We follow an approach we call a holistic approach. So what we do, we work with all the actors along the value chain, starting with farmers, but also with scientists that study and conserve diversity. So we, first of all, access these traditional crops. We identify nutrition or income market traits that can be promoted. And then we develop better cultivation practices, and then we develop better seeds, and then we create associations of producers, and then we work with the private sector. Today this is something that has been rightly so emphasized, the importance to link with the private sector for the development of the final product and the commercialization to raise the demand. There will be always a demand for major crops, as we know, potato, rice, but we know that nutritious diet needs to be integrated, need to be supported by lots of other crops, and we can call it neglected, underutilized, or minor crops. And in order to promote those crops, we also have to work on the demand side. So to raise the awareness of the user community on the nutritional values of these crops. For instance, in the case of minor millets, they grow in South Asia particularly, but also in Africa, and they have a nutritional profile which is far superior than the nutritional profile that you find it in wheat or in rice. So there is a nutritional advantage, and then there is a resilient advantage. Imagine that finger millet can be cultivated with 1/10 of the water that you use it for rice, and it's resistant to drought. So obviously this is a very good candidate for the crop for the future. We have no other choices. We know that in the year 2050 there will be in India an increase of 2-3 degrees temperature, and some areas where today you grow rice, you will not be able to grow rice any longer. So in those areas we have this opportunity offered by agrobiodiversity. Minor millets can grow in these areas. We have to do it today. And in fact, it's nothing new. These are crops that have been used by generations of farmers and community, but then they reduce competitiveness in the market. They push them aside. In India, there is a system. In that system, commodity crops like wheat and rice and maize, they receive subsidies. And so the farmer has incentive to grow these commodity crops, whereas the millets, particularly the minor millets, are left out of this system. A geographic indication is a very new in developing countries. It's a quite a new approach, but from the study that have been carried out, those interventions, for instance, in the case of argan oil, have demonstrated to be quite positive on the front, not just on the income generation, but also with regard to the conservation of these resources. And of course, all this discourse leads to capacity building. We are always facing conditions of scarce information, or farmers or producers associated that don't know at all what are the instruments, labeling, or in some cases you may not need to have a geographic indication. You may well just use trademarks, and that could be enough. Or in other cases you can have both. But all this analysis needs awareness, sharing of stories from other countries.